Hey guys, Mike Cameron here with another video. So last week we were talking about how to overcome emotions. We were talking about how to channel them in a way that actually lowers the intensity and in some cases overcomes them that way. I also talked about how in other cases we actually have to go underneath the emotion at the cognitive level. And by doing so, we're actually going to our subconscious mind and stopping the process of recreating the same patterns, the same emotions, and thus the same reactions. And that is this week's starting point to our video, part 2 of how to overcome emotions, giving ourselves the validation we need through acceptance. Have you ever experienced a time when somebody fully listened to you? Without any judgments, without any criticisms, without even giving you advice. And they expressed that understanding of your position to the point where you actually did feel understood. And it left you feeling calm. Despite feeling and thinking negatively prior to that. That's acceptance at play. And that is also validation. Now, acceptance is a concept that can be easily misunderstood and misinterpreted. For me, it's been a really hard time trying to understand that, and it's taken a while. Because anytime I heard somebody say, you need to accept that, or just accept that, or accept that, either through somebody's advice, mindfulness meditation, or Google searches about how to let go, I would interpret that accepting as, get over it already. It happened in the past. Why are you still upset? It's done and over with. Your feelings don't matter. It's finished. Nobody cares. And it happened. It's justified. It's your problem now, and you're probably deserving of it. And if I did accept something, that would mean that I couldn't do anything about it. I had no motivation to do anything about it. That I was in agreement with it, and that I condoned it. And I finally realized that that way of viewing acceptance is actually invalid and in some cases backwards. Acceptance has absolutely nothing to do with our opinion, nor our morals, our values, or even the truth. It has nothing to do with what's right and wrong, nor does it have anything to do with just or unjust. Agreement, the only thing agreement has to do with is being in agreement that reality is happening or has happened the way it has, regardless of anything else. In that space, we can see it for what it truly is, and from that place, then we can make changes, then we can make choices to go to where we actually want to go. And what keeps people from acceptance is their expectations or their standards. So they have this imagined idea of how things should be. And it's based off of their truth, which they view as the universal truth. But it's also about avoiding the emotions that those situations create themselves. And so these people start living in this fantasy world of how things should be. And it doesn't mesh with how things actually are. And so it creates this dissonance between what's in the mind and what's in reality. So it's basically like the person putting a line in the sand and telling reality, you can't cross this, you shouldn't cross this. But reality is going to do whatever reality wants. So it ends up crossing the line, and then we get angry and we see it as a threat and we hold on to it. We make meaning of it. And we do all those things because our minds are wired for survival again. And so it'll try and come up with meaning. It'll try and understand it so we can conquer it and feel safe again. The only problem is we cannot control reality. And so we just end up holding on to it until we finally accept the reality is the way it is. To not accept after a while is to actually bury the problem in our subconscious mind, or at least parts of it, the blind spots of our brain. And so we may notice at that point something's a little off, but we don't know what it is. And then we try and find solutions, but it's based off of an equation that isn't necessarily accurate, as our fantasy parts, or what we're imagining, doesn't actually exist. But we think and behave as if it does. And then we become blind to the problem as a whole in reality. And we hide away the parts of the problem that can actually set us free. And then we can run away from the problem and pretend it's not there to the point we actually fool ourselves. Until reality or someone in it actually brings it up to our attention. Now, there may be some knowledge outside of the equation that we need in order to find a resolution for that. Just like how our minds create these stories and meanings behind things that may not actually be true, even if our emotions say that they are. And even in that case, acceptance is important to find that extra information. Because if we don't have that, then we're just fighting reality. And it is very difficult, if not impossible, to both fight and understand at the same time. Because we are literally fighting understanding itself at that point. So how do we go about accepting? Well, we say yes. And we say yes to reality. And it's not just about what has happened or is happening. We're saying yes to the thoughts that are coming up, our standards about the situation, the emotions coming up, what we want to have happen, what we don't want to have happen, our fantasies about it, and we're just saying yes that it's coming up. We're not saying, yes, this is truth. And we do this in a way that we're not judging it, we're not criticizing it, we're not trying to resolve anything, we're not trying to give ourselves advice, we're not trying to talk ourselves out of it or intellectualizing ourselves out of it. We're just being in the situation as a whole, as our experience. And we can do this now. So pick something that bothers you and say yes, that this is reality right now. And say yes, I'm thinking this. I'm feeling this. I want this to happen. I don't want that to happen. Just be with whatever comes up. And pause the tape and do this. And this is important, guys, because if this stuff is just information, it sits on a shelf and it gets forgotten. But if we can actually experience this, then we can internalize the information. And we can also use this as an evaluation tool to see if this information's even useful to us or not. So I recently had a falling out with a friend that I was very close with. Him and I, we would talk about things, issues that came up, and we would give each other validation and acceptance and understanding. And then through that, we'd be able to just move on and let go of whatever that problem was. It was very useful to each other. And, recently I had an insecurity come up around abandonment. So I ended up going to talk to him, and it didn't go very well. The next day he actually told me that he had to be okay with the possibility of our friendship ending. And he's got his own stuff going on. I'm not going to get into that because that's not right. I totally couldn't even see that he had his own stuff going on. And what was coming up for me in that moment was, I'm alone again. Nobody cares about me. I'm worthless. I started thinking about how he should have been more considerate, more sensitive. I was calling him names in my head. But I was also thinking about how we had this really strong friendship and connection, and, we can have that again. And I just had to be okay with the entire experience. That was my truth in the moment. And through that, I was able to be peaceful and calm and open myself up to clarity and seeing the actual truth. Seeing that I actually do have worth, and I have friends outside of that friendship that know me deeply and are still friends with me. And so those thoughts weren't actually true. Those feelings did not reflect reality, but that was my truth in the moment. And I had to be there with all of that in order for me to be there for myself. And through that, I created that connection, that validation and acceptance that I was getting from that friendship towards myself. And that's the important thing. And so in the next video, we're going to talk about how to find clarity and how to find actual truth. And we can use this to help other people as well, by accepting that their truth is their experience in the moment. It's their reality. And by doing that, it gives them permission to accept it for themselves. And only then they can open up to clarity and find the actual truth of the situation. And any time that we get upset, we can usually find that we're saying no to something. So we find what it is, and we say yes to it. We say yes that we don't want to accept it, and then just see how it changes. And then we'll get into the next part in the next video. Anyway, so that's my video. If you liked it, please give me a big thumbs up, comment below, and subscribe if you'd like to see more videos. And please share this with somebody you think it would benefit. Help me help them. Alright, until next video. Bye. Hey guys, I hope you really enjoyed the video. And if you haven't already seen last week's, click on the video below and watch it now. Thanks for watching.